I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, July the 9th, brought to you in part by a new sponsor, Rio Max 360, a family business out of Redwood Falls, Minnesota. They're a soil-friendly mineral program for cattle that's all natural. And they're going to be sponsoring a free webinar, a Soil Health Summit, on July the 14th from 8 to 10 o'clock p.m. Central. We invite you to get on there and learn all about this. It's really a remarkable program that they've got. And be sure and look into that from Rio Max 360. The Bassett barbecue auction is the biggest thing that happened on Wednesday. A lot of things going on in the markets right now, but nothing as remarkable as the Bassett barbecue auction. It's always a big deal. It did not disappoint this year, and it's unbelievable. And I've accused them before of having free beer and whiskey there. The barbecue there is marginal. I've had the barbecue. It's nothing like Texas barbecue. It's not like Cooper's out of South Texas or anything like that, but the quality of the cattle, outstanding. The best cattle in the world. And you can get them right there at Bassett, Nebraska, out of the sand hills of Nebraska. They're the best doing cattle, the best quality cattle that you can find anywhere. And when you've got cheap corn and a huge negative basis up in that country, and I tell you what, it's unbelievable what the cattle can bring up there. At the very tail end of this report, I'm going to tell you all about them, and you guys won't believe it. But heat, I tell you what, the hot temperatures are coming, guys. And I told you on the last visit how hot it's going to be down here in the Texas Panhandle, 106 to 108 all weekend long. It's not going to get out of the triple digits till late next week. It's going to be hot all through the 5-area cattle feeding region, and in these big heavy cattle that we've got backed up, and I realize that not everybody's backed up. There's a lot of guys that are current, but there's a lot of guys that's got a lot of big heavy cattle backed up through the COVID-19 and the shutdowns of the plants and everything. Those cattle are going to be suffering, especially if we get some humidity and the winds die down a little bit. There's going to be some serious death loss in some of these big feedlots, and we can't avoid it. But cattle are moving all over the country, these feeder cattle, and we've hit the climax of the best doing cattle, feeding cattle of the year, and they're moving all over the country and all over North America. I got a message from my good friend Rick Wright. He's with the LMA of Canada. He's an executive administrator up there. Really good guy. He's a cattle buyer, and he's active in their in the industry up there, in the cattle marketing industry in Canada. And he told me about some direct cattle that were moving up there. And for you guys that think that Canada is our enemy, they are not. They absolutely do everything the same way that we do it here. And you guys know that I got good friends up there in Canada, and I'm always pro-Canadian, and I missed going up there this year for the LMAC convention. I missed going up there for the Calgary Stampede and the International Livestock Auctioneer Contest. I've been going up there to that. They canceled all that stuff for the COVID-19, no different than down here. But I'm telling you what, those people are salt of the earth out there. They've got as good a cattle as they've got anywhere. And he told me about some direct cattle that are moving, and a lot of them, they're selling up to $3 behind what the market is down here. And they're not flooding our market with cattle. They've got a better market up there than we do here. They are one of our, if not the best beef customer we have. They're one of our very best. We trade back and forth. Whatever products, beef products, they can sell better. They import up there, and whichever ones we need, we bring down here. But you guys got to get off of that if you've got a problem with them. But Rick told me about a big string of some direct cattle that sold out of the Canadian outfit up there in Manitoba province up there. 4,500 head sell direct. They weigh 10 1/4, and their pounds are the same. They fought to keep their pounds the same many years ago so that they could keep their cattle in line with our CME, with our market down here, and they continue to sell cattle in pounds, but they do sell them in Canadian dollars. But 4,500 head of 1,025-pound steers for August delivery at 169.10 Canadian, which results in 124.15 US dollars. Now you tell me a place where you can sell 1,025-pound feeder cattle for $124 down here in the States. It won't happen. Their fat cattle are bringing US dollars dressed 165 in the western part of the country and up to 177 in the east part. Now you think they're hurting our market? No. They've got a better deal going up there. But let's talk about the futures that are going on Wednesday here in the States. Look at your live cattle futures for August out of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, down 85 cents at 99.15, and just about the time where we've finally accepted the fact that fundamentals have nothing to do with the cattle market, and everybody's bullish on the cattle market. Everybody's diving into these feeder cattle. Everybody's positive all of a sudden because we've just decided that that's the way it's going to go, and then our board starts failing us. But down 85 cents at 99.15 for August. Spot live cattle futures. October down 67 cents at 103.50. You go on out front there on your live cattle futures, they were down 22 cents to down 42. August feeder cattle down 87 cents at 134.05, just as everybody is buying all these direct yearlings off these grass pastures. The big videos going on. We got more videos coming, and the board down pretty hard middle of the week. September down 65 at 135.67. You go on out front there on your feeder cattle futures, they were down 42 cents to down $1.05. Fat cattle sold again on Wednesday. They've been selling every day of the week all through this coronavirus, and whether it's the packers trying to look like they're a competitive market or whatever happening, that's what's going on. But they sold again, and probably our biggest day, or absolutely our biggest day of the week, and probably our biggest day of this week, even as we go forward. But Iowa had confirmed sales of 7,100 head, had live sales from 97 all the way up to 101.50. And as these guys are suddenly working with a negative basis on this spot August live cattle contract at 99.15, they've had to step it up a little bit because the guys are bristling at that 95, 96 because it's costing them money whenever they're hedged there, and then the cattle are not bringing back near that. But 97 to 101.50 in Iowa, and that was by far the best live sales we saw. Dress sales 157 to 160. Nebraska 2,700 head confirmed on Wednesday from 95 to 96, and that may be a smidge better than last week, but largely steady, and dress sales from 155 to 160. Kansas 9,500 head on Wednesday. That's a big movement for them for a one-day sale, negotiated cash. And they had live sales from 90 to 95 and a quarter, but mostly 93, 94 to 95 and a quarter. That 90 was kind of a stick out deal. Dress sales 157. Texas 4,300 head, all at 95. Box beef cutout values down again. I tell you what, suddenly our demand for box beef has really started to falter as our pipelines have filled up. Your end users there and your buyers of that product are still a little disgruntled over the beating that they took during the COVID-19. They filled their pipeline, they've got their immediate needs met, and they're bristling up a little bit, and they're not going to really get really plentiful when they come in buying because they're angry about what happened during the gouging of the COVID-19. The worst of it, of course, seems like we're getting back into the worst of it again here because our officials, our legislators refuse to let us have some herd immunization here. We've got to get out there and get to wrestling around a little bit. We see in other countries that they've started to get back to normal, but they continue to want the healthy people in this country to quarantine themselves instead of the opposite. And that just doesn't work. And those of us that have been around livestock know that that's not the way you do it. But box beef cutout values on Wednesday afternoon, choice cuts 203.83 down 147, selects down 132 at 195.52, and we haven't seen quotes like that for a long time, way before the COVID-19 struck us. 178 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings is a pretty good movement, but it's kind of getting back down to what we were before we got into the pandemic. Slaughter, pretty respectable here, but still not eclipsing a year ago numbers, and we're not catching up on these big cattle. And everybody thinks that we maybe started to work through those cattle. We can't work through those cattle when we knew this year we were going to have to slaughter more cattle than we did a year ago because we had so many of them on feed. Now, as we work through these market-ready fat cattle and we get into feeders down the road, and especially our calves, our spring calves, they're going to be smaller numbers there, and the supply is going to start working back in our favor. But right now we've got to still work through these cattle. And through Wednesday, 354,000 harvested. That's 9,000 less than last week and 3,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about our feeder cattle markets. Real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Wednesday, 134.10 based on an 800-pound steer up through your middle 12 states in the central part of the U.S. That's up $3.70. Wow, you do not see a 7-day moving average move that much in one day, hardly ever, and mostly all due to that Bassett barbecue sale that I'm going to tell you about. But all of our big volume sales, your big volume feeder cattle auctions, were higher. And when they start turning in a lot of these direct sales, they're going to be higher too at late in the week. But most of your Flint Hill cattle, they do not cooperate, and they're not going to give information on their direct sales. So we're just going to get the corporate things mostly in the Southern Plains. But still, 134.10 based on an 800-pound steer for your index, up 370, and your weighted average weight was up 3 pounds at 816 pounds. So my gosh, that is a ton to gain. You look at your CME cash feeder cattle index, the latest available was at 130.15, but it's going to launch for sure $3 or more higher too as soon as they get all these sales from Wednesday in. Look at your big sales for Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, 6,800 head there, and they had a great sale. You know, if we hadn't had that Bassett barbecue sale, we'd be talking all about El Reno. But look at the trend. The trend is the thing to look at out of El Reno. Feeder, steers, and heifers, $4 to $6 higher than last week, and they were higher last week, guys. And I told you guys when they were buying these direct cattle out of the Flint Hills this week, and I quoted you a bunch of prices there on the last feeder flash, that you know, the guys told me they're over $5 higher than they would have been a week ago. Look at your auctions, $4 to $6 higher, and that is the test of the market right there in El Reno. Calves $2 to $5 higher, spots $8 higher on Tuesday at the calf sale. But look at this stick out sale of yearlings on Wednesday, 123 head, 821 pound steers in El Reno, Oklahoma, 134.50. And that's still above that launched real-time index there, but I'm going to give you some quotes that are a whole lot higher. But that is the market now in the Southern Plains. 123 head, 821 pounds at 134.50, and that is dollars and dollars higher than last week, just like the trend said. Winter Livestock, Dodge City, Kansas had a lighter run, 1,500 head. They're getting ready to have their big special that they've got, and they're going to have maybe like 12,000 head of green grass yearlings in Dodge City here in a couple of weeks. They're not going to have the King of the Ring auctioneer contest due to the COVID-19. COVID-19 has spoiled everything this summer. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you haven't heard, they've already canceled the Texas State Fair that comes this fall. And it's ridiculous. You know, some of the college divisions have already canceled their football for this fall. and you know, it's just hard to believe that we're going to let this whole thing take over our entire lives. But Dodge City, Kansas, 1,500 head, $4 higher where tested, and they weren't well tested due to the, not a big run there, but $4 higher. Let's talk about some individual quotes. How about my buddy Jared Herman there at Cherokee Livestock Sales, Cherokee, Oklahoma. He had a hell of a sale there too and sold a lot of big cattle. How about 110 head of 1,060-pound steers at $116.50? Whoa, that's the highest we've seen big cattle like that sell for a long time. And you think, well, that's only, you know, in the plains, in the northern plains and Midwest. No, not all. How about Green Forest, Arkansas? North Arkansas livestock market there, and you think, well, they just sell them one or two at a time. They're all crossbred, little Brammer calves here, and the order buyers buy them. No, it's not like that, guys, anymore. 188 head in one whack. North Arkansas livestock, Green Forest, Arkansas, 188 head, 877-pound yearling steers, bring 124.60. That's a pretty good ticket, guys. They're weighing nearly 9. Now I got to tell you about Bassett, Nebraska. 8,000 head plus there. They had another 1,200 head on their in-house video there, and my goodness. But it's all about location, location, location. You guys can't haul those cattle 500, 600, 700 miles in there and think you're going to get these prices. That's all about the quality of cattle that they have there in the sand hills of Nebraska. These guys have built up reputation deals over generations, and that's why they bring so much money. These farmer feeders come in there. This corn's not going to be worth anything. All the way over there, they drove by that corn and they saw what a bumper crop we're going to have whenever harvest comes this year. Plus, they're dealing with this huge negative basis, minus 60, minus 65. The ethanol plants are all shut down. They've got to get some value out of this corn. And look what they did on these cattle here on our automated market report out of Bassett Livestock Auction there through Cattle Market Central with DB Auction there. Look at your best tested weights there. 904 head of 7-weight steers in Bassett, average 757 at 146.90. 802 head of 8-weight steers. I mean, most sale barns would love to have 1,800 head. Bassett had 1,800 head of 8-weight steers, and they would have been the best ones that walk and breathe. They averaged 851 at 140.61. Wow. 1,746 out of the 9-weight steers averaged 936 at 135.23. How about the best tested weight of heifers there with the 8-weight heifers? 1,075 head of 8-weight heifers averaged 841 at 129.48. Most anybody anywhere else would love to get that for their 840-pound steers. But the best stick-out deals they had out of Bassett, individual quotes out of Bassett, 90 head, 627-pound steer calves, bring 171.25. 64 head of 866-pound steers there in Bassett, bring 146.75. And this big string of big steers in Bassett, 170 head, 9.25 weight steers at 140.50. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.